thinking about how I went to singles night at church and it was hundreds. I mean, at least 1,000. First, I thought it was 500, but the pastor said it was 1,000 singles in attendance. Like, are we all living the same life at this point? Because I've never been in a room with that many single people or even thought that it was even, I thought I was like the only one left. I mean, beautiful women, all types, shapes and sizes, literally African-American women. Like, a room full of singles. And I'm like, this has to be an experiment. Like, this has to be like a simulation. Is that the word I want to use? I think so. Like, I'm confused and I'm like low-key, like nervous, like for us. We're shit for myself, fuck y'all. Because where are the men? Where are the men? Then again, don't know. Never mind. Don't. We know where they at. Sitting here thinking about how I went to.
Greetings, everyone. And thank you for joining us on He Spoke Fashion. Listen, I am your host, Daylon Thomas, and you have just watched a clip featuring TikToker sensation Mish Jessica Parker, in which she recounted her experience at a church singles event. That's right, y'all. She was at a church singles event that attracted nearly 1,000 attendees, and the majority of them were black women and very few were black men. Now, guys, this scenario naturally raises the pressing question. And here's the question. Where are the men? Ladies and gentlemen, you heard her ask the question, and now we're asking the question here tonight. And while this viral moment sparked numerous discussions, guys, I opted to wait until the conversation has settled just a bit before assessing its relevance to the realm in which we try to deal with, which is the realm of fashion. Now, often such discussions may focus on points that actually diverge from our primary topics. And although I am very frequently invited to share my humble opinion and my perspectives, I prefer to do so in a context that aligns with our exploration of fashion's impact, and get this, guys, the advantages it offers. And we say that often here, that fashion gives you an advantage. If you agree with that, go ahead and give me a like in the chat, and particularly through the lens of real life events. That's what we like to focus on, and occasional viral moments. Therefore, guys, the moment has now presented itself, whereas I have, after perusing through this video clip numerous times, I have found the avenue in which I want to explore this topic. So guys, do me a favor, grab your favorite beverage, and do me a favor, please call a friend, share this video, because you don't want to miss this conversation. All right? He spoke fashion. All right, guys. Thank you all, for joining us for tonight's show. And I want to dive directly into our discussion. Now, guys, let me begin by posing a question to everyone. And as a matter of fact, let's do this. Let's make this our poll question for tonight's show. All right? And here is our poll question. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to engage with this poll question? Let's start it right here. Let's start our poll question. All right? And the question is simply this: why are fewer black men showing up in the pews these days? Now, guys, I want to hear from you. Listen, if you can't answer for the options, if your option is not there, please add it in the chat, and we'll be sure that we'll go back and answer that question for you. We may just agree because perhaps we missed it. Now, guys, listen, while I do not claim to have all the answers to this question, it is evident that the contemporary black church, I would say the modern day church, differs significantly from its historical counterparts. Now, guys, listen, for many, this transformation has contributed to a decline in engagement. Now, guys, let me explain. Allow me a moment to elaborate. But before I do, let's do this. Let's review our disclaimer. All right, guys, now that you've had a time to review our disclaimer, let's proceed with our conversation. Now, guys, the viral clip has sparked widespread, and I do mean widespread commentary among viewers regarding this phenomenon, this underlining reason for the question posed by, again, TikToker Mish Jessica Parker, right? And you guys heard the question, where are all the men? And this beautiful young lady here wanted to know, where are the men? And I'm sure, just like Misha, some of you want to know the same thing. Now, guys, we will explore several of the reasons mentioned in the comment section. And that's where I find a lot of comedy, but I also find some wisdoms oftentimes in the comment section. How about you? Now, the comment section of this video we're going to look at as we continue on discussion on this topic. And the topic simply this evening, the topic is yes. Yes, this is our topic, ladies and gentlemen, on tonight. Listen, the comment section, again, for this viral clip was quite chaotic. I do mean chaotic. However, I managed to sift through the overwhelming responses to uncover responses that were noteworthy insights, such as this particular comment that states this. This comment says, tattoos, nose rings is scary and not the norm for most women. It looks like an attraction, but not attractive. It speaks weird, bizarre. If you're into that, great. All right? And so this comment, basically, what I took from this commenter is simply this, that this individual seems to hold a personal bias. Get this, a personal bias against tattoos, women with tattoos and nose rings. And I would like to gather the opinions of the group, all right? Let me ask you this question. How do you feel about tattoos and nose rings? Do you find yourselves holding any stereotypes? We know how we are. When we see certain things, we create a stereotype in our minds. And so do you find yourselves holding any stereotypes regarding those who have tattoos and nose rings? And while we're at it, that leads me to this question, right? This question. Oops, not that question. I'm sorry, that was the wrong question. Let's get rid of that question. And we'll go with the proper one, all right? Yes. And here is our questions, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. To what degree has fashion impacted the decline of black men in familiar spaces? Let's deal with that. What degree? Why do you feel that it has some impact? that perhaps men are declining in being in familiar spaces simply because they don't like the fashion that's being worn in those spaces. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Now, this is a complex question. Wouldn't you agree? Very complex question that intertwines with cultural, social, and economic factors. Hear me close, guys. Fashion as a form of self-expression, it can play a significant role in how individuals are perceived. Wouldn't you agree? It also can play a significant role in how individuals are treated in various spaces. Now, for Black men, fashion can be both a tool for empowerment. Guys, hear me close. And there's that word, a source of stereotyping. However, guys, fashion can also be polarizing. In some spaces, wearing certain styles might lead, and I'll say this, it might lead to negative stereotypes or even exclusion, which we don't want, which can contribute to a sense of decline or alienation, watch this, from those environments. Now, let's continue. So I want you to know that this is something that we often have to deal with. And another commenter had this to say. This commenter shared, weight, attitude, mindset, disposition, overall presentation has worked against many in the dating market. However, trying to shame, guilt, and insult men into accepting what they do or what they don't want no longer works. All right? This young man says that these things don't work anymore. You can't guilt trip us into wanting something that we don't want. Now, guys, if we're being honest, this comment highlights a frustration expressed by some men regarding the overall presentation of certain women, suggesting that this issue, get this, may contribute to a deficiency in the dating marketplace. Did you get that? The dating marketplace. So let's take a moment, just you and I here. Let's take a moment to explore this topic further. First and foremost, are you all familiar with this term and the dynamics of what we just called the dating marketplace? Are you familiar with it? Well, if you aren't, let me just inform you here, because this is what we want to do. We want to inform, entertain, and educate. So, guys, the dating marketplace is a complex and ever-evolving landscape that's shaped, now get this, by societal norms, by cultural expectations, and what we would consider individual preferences. And they're influenced by technology, of course. Media, mainly social media, has played a big part. And get this, changing gender roles. Online dating and social media have transformed connections, often prioritizing appearance over personal interaction. See someone on Instagram, what do? You DM them. You don't have any personal interaction with them, but it prioritizes appearance over personal interactions, leading, get this, to unrealistic standards. Now, navigating this landscape requires understanding those dynamics and approaching relationships with openness and empathy. Moving on. I don't want to be anybody's dating coach, but I'm just sharing here, all right? Now, guys, get this. This commenter shared this. This commenter said, "What's funny, if there were 2,000 men in the room that didn't meet her standards, she would still say there were no men. Wow. Okay. Now listen, that is certainly a thought-provoking, I would say, comment. Now, guys, let me ask you, help me out. Is there any validity to the assertion that if the men present, and I would like to hear from our women in the audience, right? My co-host, my female co-host. Now, if the men present did not meet her standards or didn't meet your standards, would you still regard the situation as equivalent to having no men in attendance at all? Come on, that's a very good question. If the men there just did not meet your standards, whatever they may be, maybe you like them short, tall, skinny, or fat. It doesn't matter. Sometimes you have whatever you want, or you want whatever you like, and you like whatever you want. And sometimes that is the dilemma. There were men there, as we could see in the video, but perhaps the problem arose when those men did not meet Miss Misha Jessica Parker's standard. Now, guys, it raises interesting questions about personal expectations. We all have them. We all have our personal expectations. All right, guys. And so here we are. Again, the values that we place on companionship. Now, it suggests that sometimes, and maybe it's just me and you, but sometimes quality is prioritized over quantity. Oh, come on. I should get some amens about that. As we mature, we desire quality over quantity. And that meeting certain criteria, oh, this is good, is essential, guess what? For meaningful connections. Now, guys, ultimately, it highlights this idea. And what is that idea? It highlights the idea that presence alone is not enough. Oh, this is good. This is good. Presence alone is not enough. The substance of the interaction is what truly matters. Let me say that again. Let me say that again. And let me show that to you. Presence alone is not enough. The substance of the interaction is what truly matters. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Have you ever just had someone that you may have felt was compatible? And you guys spent time together, but it was that, yeah, you maybe the presence, having someone in the room, maybe having someone in the car, and even maybe having someone in the bed was something that you sought after, their presence. But there was something missing. The missing ingredient was the substance of the interaction. There was a presence, but there wasn't any substance. And you found yourself saying, what did I get myself into? Or perhaps it is just like this young woman who went to this singles event with great expectations. She had expectations that perhaps the person, her Boaz, to her being Ruth, but her Boaz was there in the room. And while there were men present, the substance of the interaction was not there. There was no substance. And so we're finding here, as we're going through what happened with Miss Misha or Mish Jessica Parker, we are finding that there was something deeper than what was on the surface of what was happening. Let's go to another comment. This commenter says, dudes really think women with extensive tattoos don't go to church? That's ignorant as blank, especially considering the many types of women in the church. The real issue is the kind of men these women want have an issue with tattoos most of the time. But there are plenty of Black American women without tattoos that have these mindsets shown in the video. Get your passport, homies. I'm sorry about that. That was very small and hard to read. But no, nevertheless, this commenter, right? This commenter seems to really present what I would consider a compelling observation, right? About the types of women, right? They said that listen, there are more than one type of woman that attends church, specifically noting that women with tattoos, get this guys, may face challenges. I'm going to say it. They may face challenges in attracting the men that they desire, as these men often favor women without tattoos. Isn't it that just the case? The one that you want doesn't want you. And interestingly, the commenter also pointed out that women without tattoos may display attitudes similar to those of their tattooed peers. Gosh, you can't make this up. You can't make this up. This happens. You like them, they're your type, but you're not their type. Now, guys, listen, there was a time, though, and it may be hard to believe, but there was a time when church-going young women refrained from displaying their tattoos. Guys, if they did have tattoos, they would typically ensure that they were covered, at least during any church-related activities. Now, let me ask you this question. Have you ever asked yourself, now hear me close, what changes have occurred, and how might these changes have contributed to the decline in church attendance among Black men? Have you ever thought about that? What changed, and did these changes have an impact on the decline of attendance among Black men? I want you to think about that. Let me hear from you in the chat, all right? Now, guys, let's go to another comment. This commenter shared, another great example of women keeping women single. Women in church don't act any different than the women who don't go to church. Wow. Now, guys, this comment suggests that women influencers may contribute to women's singlehood due to a perceived, and I would say this, lack of wisdom, a lack of life experiences, and get this, which I think is very important, a lack of testimonies of success. How did it work for you? Let me give you a scripture. The Bible says that a poor man's wisdom is despised. Now it says the poor man had wisdom, but that same wisdom was despised. Why? Because the wisdom did not work for the poor man. Otherwise, he would not be poor. If someone's giving you advice and they don't have any testimonies of how it worked for them, then how can you ascertain that what they're telling you will work for you? Now, guys, it appears that their statements convey a critique of women who attend church. And the critique is that these women who attend church have failed to differentiate between those who are in the church, active participants, and those who do not attend at all. Now, guys, has it always been that way? Gentlemen, have you ever considered whether the women involved in church communities are perceived as more favorable than those who are not involved in any church community? Now, if you thought about that, and if you ever thought about that, what influenced your perspective? Guys, exploring this topic may assist us in understanding the reasons, get this, behind the declining attendance of black men in church. Listen, have you witnessed that? If you have, put it in the chat. Say, yes, I'm a witness. I am an eyewitness. Moving on. Now, guys, let's go to one more comment. This commenter seems to echo the sentiments expressed by one of the previous commenters when they said this. I'm willing to bet there were men at the event, but just not the men they were looking for. Just not the ones they were looking for. Now, again, when the room is filled with what you don't want, it often feels like it's empty. You'll get that when you go home. You'll get it later, all right? Listen, the following comment appears to satirize the narratives prevalent on social media. Let's take a look. It says, you mean to tell me 1,000 single, strong, educated, and fine black women were in one place, and not only did black men not come, but magical white zaddy, not magical white zaddy.
Oh my God!
But magical white zaddy didn't either. I thought he was beating black men to y'all. Y'all have the lowest divorce rate. Wow. Now again, this person seems to have a bit of satire here concerning the narratives prevalent on social media concerning the perceived desirability. And I say perceived desirability of black women among white men. White zaddy. Now it concludes with a critique suggesting that divorce rates among black women are the lowest, when unfortunately, in reality, they are among the highest when they are shared. Okay, so this comment again plays on a bit of satire here, but is there any truth to what they're saying? All right, think about it. And finally, this commenter. Let's go to another comment and share what some might consider, before I share it, harsh when they shared this comment. All right. They act like we don't see them. The women at those events are the leftovers, the baby moms, the 304s in their final form. I'm glad she's talking. It warms my heart. Wow. I said it was harsh. And while the overall tone of this comment may indeed seem somewhat harsh, and I would say, yes, it was harsh, I want to focus, if you will, on one specific point that could serve as what I would consider an insightful segue, get this, into understanding tonight the perspectives of many, and I do mean many black men regarding women in the church. Now, guys, is it plausible that there is some truth to this statement? Furthermore, guys, is it exclusively black men who perceive this as true. What do you think? Do you think that it is black men who perceive this to be true? Now, guys, for those who think that only black men hold this perspective, I want to encourage you to watch this.
Jesus, my choir member introduced me to prostitution. And the funny thing is, the baby daddy, the 27-year-old that I met at 13, couldn't do it. He tried, but he couldn't do it. But it was when I met that girl in church, she had that type of influence on me. And so I ended up running away from my grandparents' house and moving in with my choir member, who not only opened up the door for prostitution, but she introduced me to drugs. I ended up getting addicted to cocaine and ecstasy. And so from 15, 16, 17, I started stripping. I started prostituting. I was selling dope at this point, and I was addicted to it. And if that wasn't bad enough, while I was in a nightclub, some porn stars came in. And I knew who they were. They were famous, very well known in the black community. And I thought I was just going to say hi, but that conversation ended up changing my life. And one of the young ladies said, "Have you ever thought about doing porn?" And I said, "Absolutely not. You know, I've seen it a couple of times. You know, I watched it. You know, the Saints be watching porn. But I've seen
That's what
it."
they say, allegedly.
The Saints be watching.
Hey, wait a damn minute.
The Saints be watching porn. So I seen it. But I didn't want to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Praise the Lord.
I definitely saw it and knew who they were. Never imagined, even though I was already in that lifestyle, I never imagined taking it that far. But she said something that just kind of changed my world. She said, "If you think you're making money now, you haven't seen anything yet. I made $30,000 in 1 month."
The title of my video, A 304's Final Form is a Religious Woman. Interestingly enough, I'm not really referring to the one that you see on the screen. I'm referring to the one that influenced her. Because the one that opened the door or influenced her or talked to her about it or introduced her to her, however you want to say it, was the 304 that, quote unquote, was reformed in church. Their final form is to, quote unquote, get religious somehow. But the problem with that is that if they don't actually embrace God, they just take that demon with them and pass it on to somebody else. Was the 304 that, quote unquote, was reformed in church?
All right, guys. Now I know we got close to the end there of the video, but let me just fill you in. The YouTuber there made the statement concerning a 304 and saying that the final destination, if you will, the final place that the person, the 304, will want to go. As this YouTuber, this commenter said, their final form is to find themselves in church or having religion. Now, guys, hear me close. The notion that church or religion represents the ultimate manifestation of a 304 is simply, in one word, diabolical. It is diabolical to think that. Oh my God, where did they come up with this stuff? And guys, what is particularly striking is that the individual who shared this perspective, get this, is a woman, which adds an additional layer of complexity to the situation. Now, guys, let me ask you a question. Is her viewpoint accurate? Furthermore, is this perspective widely held among black men? That is the question, and the answer is That's the answer. The answer is no. But it is fair to assert that there remains a segment of black men who do not subscribe to this belief. And guys, I count myself among them. However, this raises an important question. What is the underlying truth regarding the absence of black men? Not only in the church, but also in venues that were once frequently attended by black men. I'm just trying to help a few of you on tonight. There were places that were frequently, I'm sure you guys heard about this, where women were paying the men $100 in New York, of all places, to show up at events that they were hosting. $100 just to show up. You know what they're doing now? Instead of the women getting in free, in some places, they're allowing the men to enter in free of charge. I wish they would have had, what'd you say, Grogu? Yeah, me too, my friend. Look, I wish they would have had free nights and free charge when I was going to the club back in the day. So we had to pay the full cover charge, but we didn't mind. It was a different time. But let's get into it. Let's get into it. The reason I believe there is a decline in black men attending church, as well as anything related to church, is because of, and you guys may hate me for this or dislike me for this, but it's my belief that it's because of the implementation of Dress Down Sunday in many of our black churches. Now listen, just before you try and before you tune me out, I want you to hear me close. And guys, listen, I would like to preface my remarks by stating that this is merely my humble opinion, and it is not my intention to offend anyone. Now, guys, the connection between Dress Down Sunday, or what some may call casual worship culture, and the decline of black male attendance in church is not usually presented in any type of research as a single direct cause. So I want you to hear me close. Not usually presented in research as a single direct cause. However, when you look at sociological studies, when you look into cultural commentary, and even when you study the trends within the black church, several indirect mechanisms emerge that help explain just why relaxing the quote-unquote Sunday best tradition, it may have unintentionally, I don't think it was done intentionally, but unintentionally reduced male engagement. Now, I believe that casualization, as I would call it, often coincided with, get this, feminization of church culture. Now, guys, please hear me close, ladies and gentlemen, because researchers frequently note that many black churches are heavily female in attendance. Oh, you don't believe me? Go out online, check on YouTube, and peruse the audience, and you will see that I'm right. And some congregations report about 70% women and 30% men in attendance. And the majority of those are married or too young to even notice. Now, when churches move toward more casual environments, emotional worship styles, and less emphasis on male presentation and leadership, some men began perceiving church as less aligned with masculine identity. I know you don't like it. But secondly, the shift to casual attire was largely intended, get this, simply to attract younger generations. How's that working out? But research shows that millennials, oh my goodness, millennials, get this, guys, and Gen X black men are actually the least engaged. They're the least engaged demographic in many churches. So get this, the change may not have solved the attendance issue. And get this, it may have weakened traditions that motivated older male participation. They're simply lacking motivation because of these changes. Thirdly, in traditional black church culture, men could stand out through a sharp dress. They could stand out through leadership roles and actually with public respect. Now, the environment encouraged men to present themselves at that time well in front of the community. Guys, casual culture flattened, oh my God, it flattened that visible hierarchy. When you saw men suited and booted, standing in leadership positions. And without those markers, hear me close, the church may have lost some of its social prestige, the social prestige incentives for men. Now, guys, and I want you men to back me up on this, because if men cannot find a sense of prestige within the church, then where else might they seek it? Tell me. Because black men continue to represent a smaller percentage of individuals earning over $100,000 annually, as well as those occupying, guess this, upper level management positions that often confer prestige. Yes, some could go to work, an attorney and an engineer, a CIO, a CFO, a CEO, and find prestige in their roles in the office. In the absence of this recognition, do black men possess sufficient self-esteem to approach a super bad sister who not only may out-earn them, but get this, but also potentially hold a higher status within the church? Do they have strong enough self-esteem to approach that super bad sister? But not only has Dress Down Sunday impacted black men negatively, but get this, it has also impacted black women. Now stay with me now. Stay with me. For generations, Sunday worship in many black churches functioned as a cultural showcase. Oh, those were the good old days. Men wore tailored suits, polished shoes, and neckties. And get this, women wore elegant dresses, hats, coordinated outfits, and even styled hair. Now, this environment, if you did not know, created a setting where presentation mattered. And people often took pride in looking their best. My God. Now, when churches began emphasizing dress down culture, the environment that once encouraged intentional presentation, excuse me, that environment became less prominent. And as a result, fewer people treat church as a place to present themselves, and I love this, to present themselves at their best. And the visual signals that often spark attraction and the visual signals that often spark admiration, they decreased. Those visual signals. Now, lastly, and you all may not like me, I hope that you do after I say this, but please hear me out. The implementation of Dress Down Sunday has shifted masculine and feminine expression. And this is in the church, not at the club, not at your job, not in the mall, but at the church. Shifted masculine and feminine expression. You see, traditional church fashion also reinforced gender expression. But then as dress norms relaxed, some observers argue that the visual cues associated with these expressions became less defined. Now, this can subtly change the social chemistry, the chemistry between a man and a woman, between men and women in communal spaces. Now, guys, you may find it hard to believe, but I have witnessed with my own eyes women preaching from the pulpit while dressed in attire that's simply reminiscent of young boys. Now, guys, this experience confirmed, at least for me, the notable shift in traditional norms. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Now, I understand that there just may be some skepticism about what I've said. But I encourage you, I simply encourage you to examine this. If you don't believe me, just examine this. Now listen, I'm not trying to offend anyone, nor am I trying to be offensive. But the traditional Sunday best culture in many black churches once created an environment where, and get this, presentation was elevated. Attraction cues were visible. And church functioned as a social and courtship space. But when that culture became more casual, guys, hear me close, hear my heart, the visual and social signals that once supported those dynamics, they simply weakened, which indirectly affected how men and women, how they notice and engage with one another. The weakening, the softening, the casual, I guess this was a casualty of casual dress. Now, guys, if I were in this woman's position, I might have taken similar actions, particularly if I believe that the black church could serve as a final bastion in the search for my person. Are you searching for your person? Was church a place that you look to find your person? But especially given that other avenues have often let down black women. Now, guys, listen, allow me to share a story that I believe will effectively illustrate my point. Allow me to share. You guys ready? Ready for my story? I'm glad you're ready. Guys, this is a story about a friend of mine named Marcus. Guys, as I said, talk about Marcus a lot. But Marcus had visited many churches over the years. But something always felt slightly off to him. It wasn't the preaching. Lord knows it wasn't the preaching or even the music. It was the atmosphere. What he missed was the sense that Sunday was special, a day set apart. The suits, polished shoes, the dresses, and hats weren't just about fashion to him. No, no, no. They were about honor, discipline, and even reverence. Now, one Sunday morning, Marcus decided that he would visit a small church across town. He often frequented the mega churches, but this particular Sunday he decided to visit that small church that was known for keeping the old tradition of wearing your Sunday's best. Now, as he walked through the doors in his navy suit and neatly pressed shirt, he immediately felt something different. Guys, the sanctuary had a quiet dignity to it. Men stood tall in their suits, and women wore elegant dresses that reflected care and reflected effort. It felt like a place where people came not only to worship, but to present their best selves, not before each other, but before God. Now, Marcus took his seat, and he noticed her across the aisle. My. And guys, you won't believe what she was wearing. She wore a simple but beautiful cream-colored dress with a hat that matched perfectly. Now, nothing about her was loud or even flashy. Yet the care she had taken with her appearance, that care spoke volumes. You see, she carried herself with grace, the kind that suggested she understood why Sunday was meant to be treated differently from every other day of the week. Now, guys, listen. During the service, my guy, my boy, Marcus, found himself thinking about something he had heard his grandfather, his grandfather say years ago. And it was, and I quote, "The way people prepare themselves for God often tells you something about the way they prepare themselves for life," end quote. Guys, for the first time in a very, very long while, Marcus felt confident. Being in a place where excellence was normal, it made him stand a little taller in his own suit. It reminded him that there was nothing wrong with valuing effort, respect, and tradition. Man, I could be a DJ. But listen, after the service ended, he saw her standing near the fellowship hall. She was speaking with an older woman. And for a moment, Marcus hesitated. Still was Marcus. But then he looked around the room, the polished shoes, the pressed suits, the elegant dresses, and realized something. What did he realize? Well, Marcus, he realized that this was a place where people did not apologize for putting their best foot forward. Now, Marcus, he straightened his tie. Yes. Walked over and politely waited for her conversation to end. "Good morning," he said, with a warm smile. I just wanted to say, it's refreshing to see someone who still believes that Sunday is worth dressing up for. Oh, you better tell somebody that Sunday is worth dressing up for. And guess what? She smiled back. I was thinking the same thing when I saw you walk in, she replied. It tells you a lot about a person. Doesn't it? Doesn't it tell you a lot about a person? The way they dress? Marcus chuckled softly. He said it does. It does tell you a lot about a person. About how they dress before God. They talked for only a few minutes that morning, but something about the conversation felt natural. You know, like two people who already understood an unspoken value about respect, an unspoken value about preparation, and an unspoken value about honoring what matters. Wow. I'll tell you this. As Marcus walked to his car later that day, he realized something had changed. It wasn't just that he had met someone interesting. It was that the environment reminded him of who he was. Let me tell you, sometimes that environment that you're in, it can either easily make you forget who you are or remind you who you are. And sometimes all a man needs to approach the woman he believes could be his wife is the confidence that comes from standing in a place where bringing your best is still the standard. You better high five your neighbor. Bringing your best is still the standard. Ladies and gentlemen, you just might be one dress shirt, one suit and tie away from meeting your person. I know you're right. Show you right. Guys, listen. Listen. That is, yes, all I have for you tonight. I'm so glad you stuck around to the end of the show. Listen, go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't already. Please take the time to share this video. I have enjoyed you, my co-host on tonight. Go ahead and share this video, like this video. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do me a favor and do that tonight and hit that notification so that you'll be notified and alerted the next time we go live. All right, guys? That's all I have for you tonight. I want you to have a good night, good fashion, and remember, he spoke fashion to you. See you next time. Hope you'll be back to join us. All right?
He spoke fashion.